All right, everybody. Well, good afternoon. It's a pleasure to talk to everybody. I want to introduce myself. My name is JJ DeBras. I'll be your professor for the next 8 weeks teaching convention sales. So thank you guys so much for taking the class. Happy to have you involved. Quick background on me. This is my 10th year in the hospitality industry, all with the Crown Plaza Hotel downtown Indianapolis. It is my 4th year as a professor at IUPUI. I had the privilege of teaching this class as well as an intro to hospitality industry, and I also teach a sports marketing class in the summertime. So if any of you are taking both, you might see my name again. I'm a graduate of Butler University, and again, a very proud alum there. So you might hear different things from my experiences from there coming up as well. My background in the hospitality industry is kind of different as far as how I got here. I actually started out in the sports marketing industry, working for the Indiana Pacers, Butler University, as well as Purdue University. Then jumped over into the staffing industry, which I wish upon nobody. Very difficult industry. Learned a ton though. Did some student teaching. Did some substitute teaching while I was in between jobs, and then got on with the Crown Plaza downtown 10 years ago. So very proud of the industry that I get to work in. It's a lot of fun. It's very fascinating in the fact that it changes, it seems like, every year. So privileged to teach this class. Hope to give you guys a lot of different wisdom, some information that hopefully will allow you to go into this industry and succeed and strive. So first things I want to talk about is our book. And I have to say I am very, very impressed with the 9th edition of this book. I've had the privilege of talking to the author, and one of the feedback I had given him before I'd actually seen the new book was a lot of it was based on things that we did in the past. And so there wasn't as much talk about technology, wasn't much talk or even using of technology from a teaching standpoint. The great thing that you guys are going to see in every single one of these chapters are multiple opportunities to go online and see the theory of this book put into action. So you've got internet exercises, you've got things called More Online, worth watching. I strongly, strongly, strongly encourage you guys to go to these different websites. From the different things that I've read and seen, these are wonderful people in the industry. They're some of the most respected people in the industry, and they're really going to be able to take some of these theories that we're talking about and give you real life happenstances and kind of show you what they're talking about. So again, I cannot say it enough. Every opportunity you have to go online and either watch YouTube videos or read the different blogs, please do it. For those of you who may have a book that is not the 9th edition, if you will, please email me. I'm going to try to put together an email list, and I'll do my best to kind of send you guys chapter by chapter where these are online. And again, what we're going to be talking about as far as like the worth watching goes, or the internet exercises. I do not have any of these worked into assignments yet. Being that it's a new book, I didn't want to go that route, but they are great additional study tools for you guys to kind of actually see what they're talking about. So again, if you don't have a 9th edition of this book, please email me. I'm going to put a list together, and we'll make sure that we get these websites out to you guys chapter by chapter. So again, you have the same opportunities that those who have the new book have. So let's get in the first chapter. So introduction, convention, meetings, trade show industries. There is a lot in our industry. We cover such a wide gamut of things. Everything from your business traveler to your different groups. There are so many different players, and we're going to talk about all of them over the course of 8 weeks. So to kind of give you an idea of the history of the meeting markets, if you will, the hotel industry kind of shifted probably within the last 20 to 30 years where, for the longest time, hotels were just transient business. People, families staying on vacation, businessmen and women, coming into town for a 2-day meeting, two meeting on site, staying at the hotel. Well, slowly but surely, all of a sudden, hotels figured out very quickly they could host a lot of this. And so all of a sudden, then the meeting industry explodes, and now you have these properties, and you guys can look downtown, you can see them. Mine is one of them, the JW, the Marriott, the Hyatt, the Westin. Those are all built with a specific goal of attracting meetings and events, and then obviously making the revenue off of that. So we saw a number of different changes as the industry has grown. One of the big changes too is the demographics. For the longest time, I think, and again, this goes back to probably the 60s, 70s, and 80s, where it was men in business. The business traveler was a man, probably married, 40 years old, and a lifelong either sales manager or what have you. We're seeing a total change in that. I mean, our industry now sees all kinds of travelers, from the female to the male, young, old, doesn't matter, married, single, what have you. So um, that part of the industry has changed, and it's made us obviously be more cognizant of who we're selling to, who our attendees are, what are their needs. And so that is a great challenge for us as sales managers to obviously think outside the box and not always pigeonhole, how we set a room or the activities that we suggest. We don't no longer use the word wives or husbands, it's spouses. And it's funny, I know for you guys being your age, that's probably not even, you guys have always used those kind of things. But, as I was growing up, and I'm 43 years old, there was that, most businessmen traveled. And if you were going to have an event that included spouses, it was wives. And what were the wives going to do while the men were in the meeting? That is long gone. I mean, we're seeing just as many female business travelers as we are men. So again, a change for some of, guess I can say I'm an old timer now, being in the industry 10 years. But those are kind of different things we have to adjust to. So there are also, again, these meetings have changed a lot of times from just updates, where we're doing, state of the company address, a lot more training now, a lot more education. You're seeing product launches. You're seeing events that are bringing in clientele, where maybe we're thanking our clientele, we're trying to bring them up to speed on what new things we're doing. So it's not always internal. A lot of times, you could have, the client has their client, and so now my client is their client. So it's really strange how all of that has gone along. So you're just seeing a different change, and obviously the needs of these meetings have changed greatly. We'll talk for sure over the course of 8 weeks how technology has definitely changed the meeting industry and what is brought into the meeting room now, where maybe before it was lectures and flip charts, now you're live streaming events. Now we're having responses from Twitter and from Facebook to be posted as the conferences are going on. There's just a lot more that goes on in these conferences than even 10 and 15 years ago. So let's talk a little bit about types of meetings. And when we talk about meetings, again, it's such a vague term. We're going to talk about a number of different gatherings, maybe is the better way of saying this, that affects the hospitality industry. And your book talks about a few, and I'll just give you a few of the names: conventions, forums, seminars, panels, conferences, symposiums, workshops, congresses, lectures, clinics, retreats. Those are just a few of the names, and the book does a fantastic job of kind of identifying these and how they're broken down. We're going to talk about probably almost all of these. You're going to hear the word conference and convention used probably the most. In my world, those are the bigger of the meetings, and again, usually are more detailed. You may have a panel within a conference. So see, some of these can be used together, if you will. You're talking about a retreat. That may be something with a higher board, your board members, those kind of things. Workshops can be the same as a breakout session. So there's going to be some verbiage that's going to cross over. And so I'll do my best to try to make sure we explain what we're talking about. But again, these meetings, and there's your generic term, can be named anything. And like I said, the book gives you almost 12 of them. Trust me, clients will come up with their own names for what they call these meetings, and that's something that we'll have to adjust to as well. So again, we're going to get into greater detail as far as how these break down. One of the things we're going to talk about too, we're going to jump right into this, is who holds these meetings. So in my world, I handle the corporate market and the athletics market for the Crowne Plaza. We have other sales managers who handle associations. And if you don't know what an association is, search online. There are millions of them. Any industry is going to have an association, and they might even get down to any position. So for instance, you can have a medical association, you can have a doctor's association, a nurses association, administrative assistants in the medical field association. So again, those are huge, and they typically tend to be bigger. They're being held at a national level, a regional level, maybe a statewide level. You have trade associations, professional associations, technical associations. Your book does a great job of identifying all of these. So again, that's one area that we're going to talk about. Corporate, obviously, if you can leave any corporation, the types of meetings they have, again, go from one end of the gamut to the other. It can be state of the business addresses. It can be technical training. It can be best practices training. It could be an event where they're trying to impress their clients. They obviously have social functions as well. Again, just imagine anything that goes on in a corporation. in all the different pieces of a corporation, as far as the different job types you have, all of them can go through training. So again, a lot of corporate meetings. We have a fun one called SMRF. SMRF stands for, if not the little blue creatures, SMRF stands for social, military, education, religious, and fraternal. SMERF. SMRF. So that's kind of the catch-all. And that is a very tough market from a sales manager's point of view, because you're dealing with such varied entities, if you will. Military and government a lot of times get lumped together. Those are very difficult, because a lot of times they are locked into a certain price. They can only spend so much. They can't have certain food and beverage requirements. And so again, you have to be very careful with those. Education can be very much the same way, that they're limited on funds, yet the meeting room has to have certain qualifications, especially if they're getting some sort of credit for different things. So, and then you talk about religious. Again, very, very budget conscious, but a lot of times also very flexible. They might say, yeah, if you can get me an $89 rate, we'll come in January, we'll come in February, even those are the cold months for our area, if you will. So again, all of these are going to have a different feel to them. All of them are going to have different qualifications and needs. So now we talk about the groups, and then you're going to slide down into the type of customers you're going to have. And I'm talking strictly from a sales viewpoint. So I, as a sales manager, who is my point person when I'm dealing with these different groups? So what are some of the variations? Number one, full-time planners. These are the best. These are professionals who do nothing but plan and implement meetings. They understand the language of our industry. They understand contracts. They understand negotiations. They understand where the hotel makes their money and where they've got a little bit of wiggle room. They're going to be thinking on behalf of the client, and they're going to problem solve, well before we get here. Typically, they are wonderful to deal with because their knowledge of the industry is so vast that it makes our job a lot easier. So I tend to really love the full-time meeting planner. Now, you can have two types of full-time meeting planners. You can have one that is an employee of the group you're working with, whether it's corporate, association, religious, military, what have you. They work for that entity. You also have full-time meeting planners that are what we call third-party planners. And basically, they work as independent contractors. And some of the major ones that you're going to hear throughout these 8 weeks, Helms Briscoe, Conference Direct, are two of the biggest. And then I tell you what, we're going to work with those two right now. There's some others as well, but Helms Briscoe for sure is one that you're going to hear a lot about. And their sole job is to plan meetings, and they'll have a book of business, a book of clients that they represent, and for a lot of them it goes anywhere and everywhere. They could have corporate, they could have association, they could have government, but they're going to be the ones that call and send you the request for proposal, an RFP, and they'll be your contact. They work on behalf of the client. Now, the interesting thing about this and why clients love this is that most third-party planners, they are paid on commission by the hotel. So again, let's say it's a corporation, let's say it's a Rolls-Royce has a planner. Rolls-Royce is not paying that planner. That planner is being paid by the hotel because they brought us the piece of business, so we're going to pay them a commission accordingly. So again, it's a great win-win for the corporation. Now, a lot of times what will happen is that third-party planner will do all the sourcing, all the organizing, and then the point person on site could be somebody from the organization they're representing. Sometimes it's them. Sometimes they'll do the whole thing from beginning to end, but a lot of times they'll also kind of do all the pre-work and then hand it off to a point person who's on site. So, other types of planners. You can have a single event planner or what we might call part-time planners. Part-time planners a lot of times are admins who this has just become an additional responsibility for them. These can be some of the most difficult to work with, only in the sense that their knowledge isn't as vast as, say, a third party. So, an admin who typically is worrying about the comings and goings of an office, maybe they're an office manager, maybe they have responsibility to a vice president of some kind or executive vice president. The idea of shifting and having to call a hotel and worry about rooming list and VIPs and food and beverage functions and how the room is set up and what kind of AV do they need, that's out of their realm of expertise. And so for those kind of interactions that we have as sales managers, you become as much an educator as you do a sales manager. And I think those kind of opportunities are great in the sense that you have to usually work harder. It's usually more intensive as far as the back and forth between that contact. But I have the real opportunity of bonding and educating a planner. And if I do it right, and if I look out for their best interests, then I become a resource for them. And that when they have meetings, they come to us. So it's a real opportunity, and it's one that will take more time because there is that lack of understanding of our industry, but it's an opportunity to actually educate somebody and then again form those closer ties. So the other thing you're going to see too, and you see this mostly with associations, possibly some of the religious groups, is you may have committees. Committees are probably some of the most difficult to sell to, and the reason being is you have multiple people, probably with multiple things that are important to them, multiple things that maybe scare them or they're worried about, and you've got to get all of that and convince all of them to come to your hotel. So I am very fortunate on the corporate side of things. I've rarely seen anything like this. However, one of my closest sales manager friends, Patty Overton, deals with associations all the time. Guys, she can have as many as 12 or 15 people she's trying to sell our hotel to. That committee may be together now, but by the time that decision gets made, it's a new committee, so she has to re-educate them again. Then the meeting doesn't come for 3 years, so that committee may not even be in place anymore. It's a very, very difficult sell. Now, those associations are large in most cases, so the revenue stream is very, very high. So it definitely is one of those where the reward is huge, but the time commitment also is too. So again, those are the kind of things you're going to see from a planner standpoint. Again, you have your professionals, you'll have kind of your part timers, if you will, and then you're going to have committees and some variations thereof. So you might have you might have a third party planner that works in conjunction with an on site planner. With the company. So you'll see variations, but those are probably your 3 or 4 that you're going to see on a regular basis. So let's talk about different hotels. What's out there? Well, you've got a variety of hotels and it's changing all the time. Again, the book gives you guys some great examples. All suite hotels. Something like the Homewood Suites. If you've ever been to Keystone on the Crossing, that's an all suite hotel. So those are made for long-term stays, made for family stays. Again, perfect for that long-term traveler. You have boutique or lifestyle hotels, and you're going to see a lot of those. La Meridia downtown is a boutique hotel. You've got the small little hotel that just opened up in Broad Ripple. I want to say it's 8 rooms. Again, boutique hotel, more of a unique stay, more of a destination type stay. Obviously, you're going to have your conference centers, and that's where most of my experience comes from. And your conference centers, hotels, typically going to have a large amount of meeting space and or are attached to a convention center. So when you look at the heart of downtown, you kind of go around the convention center, you'll see most of our convention hotels. The JW, the Marriott, the Westin, the Hyatt, the Crowne Plaza, the Omni, the Embassy Suites. You can get out a little bit further, you've got the Hilton, not attached but close enough to be a player in that market. So those are what we talk kind of your conference center hotels, and they're going to have a lot of meeting space, and in most cases, they're looking for 2 types of businesses. They're looking at what we call one hotel piece of business where we have everything in-house, from the meeting to the overnight rooms to the food and beverage functions. Or they're looking to tack on with the convention center and try to grab these huge meetings that could have 3,000 or 4,000 overnight rooms on peak. So it's going to be a 6 or 7 hotel group. And we may get some ancillary stuff out of it. We're going to get the overnight rooms, but we also might get maybe some of their breakout meetings, or maybe they're going to have a meeting of the board. So they don't need a convention center space of 60,000 square feet. Maybe they're going to break out, and part of this convention is perfect example. The association we have a trucking convention that comes in. So obviously they're all these companies are showing their wares, their whatever their product is. So they may want to entertain their clients. Well, again, they don't need 25,000 square feet at the convention center to entertain 100 clients or maybe 200 clients. They might want a 15,000 square foot ballroom. So they'll go to the hotels and say, okay, we're here for this convention, but we're going to do a side event just for our clients. And so that's where hotels can gain additional revenues. Again, as far as where meetings take place, the ones I just listed are kind of your traditional type stays. But you also have non-traditional facilities, and you'll see these on college campuses. There was a movement not too long ago to do meetings on cruise ships. I haven't seen much of that anymore. I'm sure it still happens, but I don't think it's as prevalent in the industry as it once was. One thing you are seeing, though, more of is special event centers, or even an area that is set up for one thing but can be used for another. And I'm trying to explain this carefully. To give you an example, someplace like Bankers Life Stadium. Bankers Life obviously is created to hold sporting events or concerts. They can also hold meetings. It could be a meeting up in their they've got an executive space that's huge. You can put almost 100 people up there. They can do special events on the main floor. You talk about Crane Bay is another one. Crane Bay was again was part of I believe the military had a Crane Bay was a military installation. It's now a social function. You can actually have weddings there. You can have meetings there. You can have receptions there. So you're starting to see more and more of these entities that have good amounts of space, even though, again, a museum's a perfect example. The Indiana State Museum will do different meetings and do different social functions. That's not what they were created for. However, it's a unique environment. There's tons of open space. All you got to do is drop down tables, put in some lighting, and bam, you've got a very, very unique reception hall. So what you're seeing is a lot of these companies, or a lot of these entities, are trying to find those extra revenue streams, and they've kind of jumped into the hospitality industry. It's very unique. It's very different. There are pluses to it, obviously, because they offer an environment that a hotel ballroom just can't transform itself into. At the same time, that's not their bread and butter. They're a museum. They're there for a certain reason. So to host events means, if I, as a planner, am going there, how are we doing catering? How are we doing our or how are we doing our seat assignments? What's the environment like? How's the AV like? So there are some downsides to that if that's not something they do on a regular basis. And so again, tough job for a planner. Unique environment, but maybe not the expertise that you would see at a hotel or at an entity that does that on a regular basis. So what are some of the fun trends in the industry? Well, these change all the time, and so, but we are seeing some that have stuck. Like I said, again, I taught this class for 4 years, and I would definitely say, 3 of the big ones. And again, gotta shift. All of my lectures, not only will you be able to see me on YouTube, all of my outlines are going to be on Canvas. So you guys can always pull these up and follow along if you want, or if you'd rather just read them, you can do that as well. So we talk about trends. Number one, the popularity of second-tier cities. We're starting to see, and again, right now the market is more of a seller's market. So the hotels right now kind of have the advantage. We're starting to see a few little trends here at the beginning of 2016 that says maybe that's changing to where it's become more of a buyer's market, and they're going to have more of the control. Well, the one thing we've seen with second-tier cities is they become very popular for multiple reasons. And Indianapolis is a second-tier city. And by second tier, what I basically mean is usually you base that on the size of their convention center, how many headquarter-type hotels you have, what the airlift is in for the city. So to give you an idea of kind of where we stand, a tier 1 city is going to be Las Vegas, Chicago, New York, LA. Down in Florida, you're probably going to have Orlando is probably considered a tier 1 city. Dallas is probably considered a tier 1 city. These are cities that are going to have really, really large convention center space. They have fantastic airlift. And by airlift, what I mean is it's easy to get in and out of those cities through airlines. The one downside for Indianapolis right now is we don't have a hub. Delta is not hubbed here, United Airlines is not hubbed here, what have you. Those cities tend to have very large hubs, and so there are multiple flights going to and from everywhere and anywhere. The one downside Indianapolis has had for many years is we don't have a lot of West Coast flights. And so getting businesses from the West Coast to do meetings out here is very difficult because air travel, there's only 1 or 2 flights that come out this way, and so it's hard to get their people out here. So, but the advantage of a tier 2 city is that typically they're less expensive. They are, in a lot of cases, more compact. The one huge advantage that a city like Indianapolis and then the other one is San Antonio have is that everything is within walking distance. And guys, I can't begin to tell you how important that is from a planner standpoint, because you don't have to have coaches, you don't have to have shuttles, you're not trying to navigate a city, and not to pick on any one city, but I was in Dallas for a conference the year that they got announced they were going to get the Super Bowl, and I shook my head because Dallas, Fort Worth is spread out all over the place. So when the Super Bowl was there, they were holding events in these smaller cities, suburbs of Dallas basically, and there was no easy way to get anywhere. I mean, it was taxi, it was obviously, shuttles or, 55 passenger coaches. So I knew it had to be a logistic nightmare for anybody who was planning, but also for your attendees who are coming to this to figure out how I'm getting everywhere. The beauty of Indy, when we hosted the Super Bowl, was you could walk from the Maximum party over at Victory Field to the NFL party at the Crowne Plaza to Lady Gaga's party at La Meridia, and you never went outside of a 5-block area. It was tremendous. And of course, all the fans got to be downtown, and it was just very, very easy. So That's huge for a tier two city to have that kind of advantage. Again, obviously, we talked about rate. Our rates are typically lower than your Chicago's and your New York's. That's great for a planner as well. A lot of tier two cities are expanding what they have, and Indy is a great example of this, where we have more museums, we have more interacting activities downtown. You have Georgia Street, you've got God, there are so many different tours you can do now, from running and biking to segways to, obviously we have the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. You've got two professional sports teams, three or four semi-pro teams. You've got three college teams in town. So there's so much more you can do. And again, it's usually less expensive and it's usually easier. Now, the big advantage too for Indianapolis is that we pride ourselves on hospitality and being, again, welcoming. We want you here. Unlike a Chicago who, they're just getting bombarded with people. A lot of times the attitude is, we'll take you or leave you. Because we got 18 people who are lined up outside, waiting to get in. Whereas in Indianapolis, they're going to fight and scrap to get everything that we can. And therefore, you're important to us. And clients like that. So that's something you're seeing. We kind of already touched on it already. When the economy got bad about 6, 7 years ago, we saw a lot of our professional planners who worked for companies or associations be done away with. There's no return on investment when it comes to a planner's position. They don't generate revenue, they spend money. And so what we were seeing was a lot of those positions were being cut, which of course then increased the number of third-party planners we saw. Because as we talked about earlier, we're not, the company's not paying them. That's their job, is just to source and find everything, and we, the hotel, pay them. So it's a great way for corporations and associations to save money. So you're seeing more of that. And obviously, as we go through this book, the increase in technology, it is amazing, absolutely amazing what your generation is going to have your hands on. There are hotels now that you don't even have to talk to the front desk. You do all of your checking in by phone. Your key card is actually sent to your phone. There's a sensor on the door. You just check in. It is amazing from how we book rooms to how we provide services for clients to the information that we can send you to what you see in hotel lobbies, from touch screens to tell you what's going on around the city, to the social media aspect of it, where we're getting feedback from clients. Again, on Twitter, on Facebook, on Vine, on YouTube, all the different entities that now give the client a voice to let us know how we're doing. And it's both good and bad. I mean, obviously, it points out your warts a lot of times, but at the same time, it's a great way to take praise as well. So again, those are some of the big trends you're going to see. We'll talk a little bit about revenue management and how important that is, where you're cutting your cost at, where are those ancillary revenue streams from your hotel, bars, and restaurants to other services you can provide. Contract negotiations, you're going to see that. I think, maybe back in the day, you may have had more of a handshake agreement. Those are long gone. Contracts are a little more complicated, a lot more involved to protect both the planner in the corporation or entity, as well as the hotel. And definitely you're going to see a rise in more green in the social responsibilities that hotels have. You're seeing you're seeing clients wanting to see hotels involved in their community. And whether that is, again, from a social responsibility when it comes to your carbon footprint, are you giving back to the community? What are you doing with food? Is it just being thrown away? Does it go to a third party, to go to a shelter? How is your business going? Are you green conscious? So all of that's going to be touched on, and all of that is becoming more and more vitally important, as it is now becoming part of the decision maker's decision. It's not just who has the cheapest rates. It's, if we're going to be associated with you, now we're tied together. We want to make sure that the reputation you have is one that we want to be associated with. So guys, that's kind of the first chapter in a nutshell. Again, these lectures are going to be quick, brief overlays. I strongly encourage you guys to read the books. Obviously, read the chapters, understand them. You will have my email. You have my office phone. I think you actually have my cell phone as well. Please do not hesitate to call either one. I may not always get back to you within 5 minutes, but I will get back to you. Again, thrilled to teach this class. By all means, please reach out to me with questions. Your assignments are up on the page, so you've got discussion coming up. Again, make sure you guys read the assignments. In those discussions, not only do you have to put your opinion up there, but you have to respond to 2 of your classmates. So the points are the points, guys. I don't usually have any bonus points thrown in there. The assignments are all there. I think they're very good to pull from the chapter to show us, what you guys are learning. But by all means, if you have questions, concerns, reach out to me. Thank you guys very much. I'm excited to teach this class. Look forward to speaking to you more here in the next 8 weeks.